Welcome to Boring Travel and Geography for Sleep, and to another calming episode in our slow-moving series, The World's Countries. Tonight we visit one of Europe's smallest and oldest countries, a land so tiny and so ancient that most people pass through it without even realizing they've entered a sovereign state. This is the Republic of San Marino. As always, this episode will be uneventful, slowly informative, and perfectly suited for drifting away into quiet thoughts or gentle sleep. Let us begin. Please note, this is not a perfect podcast. Mistakes might appear. So if you're from San Marino or know the country well, please leave a comment and help us improve. We love hearing from locals and those who care. And now we begin. Location, borders, and size. San Marino is located in southern Europe, on the Italian peninsula, in the heart of the Apennine Mountains. It lies entirely within the country of Italy, making it a landlocked enclave, meaning it is surrounded by only one other country. It does not touch any ocean or sea. No coastline, no ports, no harbors, just hills, valleys, and winding roads, far from crashing waves or salty air. San Marino shares borders only with Italy. It has no other neighbors. Not even a lake or river separates it from the surrounding Italian provinces. The border stretches for just about 39 kilometers, which is roughly 24 miles. The land San Marino rests upon is hilly and green. It is tucked between the Italian regions of Emilia-Romagna and Marche. And while San Marino is geographically Italian, it remains politically entirely its own. With a total area of only 61 square kilometers, or 24 square miles, San Marino is the fifth smallest country in the world. It is smaller than Liechtenstein, but larger than Tuvalu. It is only slightly bigger than the island nation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and just a bit smaller than the city of Washington, D.C. So it is very small. Yet despite its size, San Marino is not new. In fact, it claims to be the oldest republic in the world. Name, meaning, and physical features. The full and official name of the country is the Most Serene Republic of San Marino. It is a name that sounds grand, even for such a small place. The phrase Most Serene is a traditional title used by older European republics, meant to reflect calm governance and noble independence. San Marino, as a name, comes from Saint Marinus, a Christian stonemason from the island of Rab, in what is now Croatia. According to legend, Marinus fled religious persecution in the Roman Empire and settled on Mount Titano in the early 4th century. There, he founded a small Christian community, and eventually the republic that now bears his name. The highest point in San Marino is Mount Titano itself, rising gently to 739 meters above sea level. That's around 2,425 feet. It is not a towering peak, but for such a small country, it is a defining landmark. On a clear day, you can see the Adriatic Sea from its summit, even though the country does not touch the coast. The lowest point is located near the Ossa River, on the country's northeastern border, at an elevation of about 55 meters above sea level. A quiet valley, far from the bustle of large cities. San Marino has no large rivers. Its longest watercourse is the San Marino River, which flows eastward for a short distance before entering Italy. It is modest in size, and often more of a stream than a river. There are no natural lakes within San Marino. What water bodies exist are small and mostly artificial, used for agriculture or decoration, rather than navigation or fishing. Despite its limited geography, the land is varied, with rolling hills, wooded areas, and scattered settlements. Everything is compact, yet distinct. San Marino is a country shaped by the land it rests upon, and by the legend of the man who sought peace upon a mountain. Flag and language. The flag of San Marino is simple, quiet, and dignified. It consists of two horizontal bands, white on the top and light blue on the bottom. In the center sits the coat of arms, carefully detailed and steeped in symbolism. The white color is said to represent peace, while the blue symbolizes liberty. Together, they reflect the values the Republic has held dear for centuries: peace and freedom. The coat of arms is ornate, almost like something from a fairy tale. It features 3 towers, each resting atop one of Mount Titano's 3 peaks. These towers, Guaida, Sesta, and Montale, are crowned with feathery plumes. They stand as symbols of defense, vigilance, and independence. Beneath the towers is a shield, and below the shield a simple scroll. On it is written one word: Libertas, liberty. It is the country's motto, and perhaps its guiding principle. This flag has been used in its modern form since the 1800s. But the coat of arms goes back much further, changing shape over time, yet always centered around the same ideals. As for language, San Marino is perhaps unsurprising in its choice. The official language is Italian. It is used in government, education, and daily life. The Sammarinese dialect, a variety of Romagnol, is sometimes spoken informally, but it has no official status. It is a soft-spoken reminder of the region's heritage. There are no other official languages. No multilingual signage. No linguistic debates. Just Italian, spoken in a small country where the pace of life remains steady, and the words seem to echo a little longer in the narrow mountain streets. Population and religion. San Marino has a population of around 34,000 people. That is a number so small, it could fit easily inside a football stadium, or a quiet suburban neighborhood in a much larger country. On the list of the world's most populous nations, San Marino ranks near the very bottom. Only a handful of countries like Tuvalu, Nauru, and Vatican City have fewer residents. This makes San Marino not just a small country in terms of size, but in people as well. For comparison, San Marino has roughly the same number of people as the town of Andover in England or Waconia in Minnesota. It is a country where most people know each other, or at least know someone who knows someone. The population has been slowly growing, but at a gentle pace. Not booming, not shrinking, just steady. Most people in San Marino are ethnic Sammarinese or Italian. The two groups are closely related, sharing language, culture, and traditions. There is very little ethnic diversity, and immigration is limited. In many ways, it is a place that has remained demographically stable for generations. As for religion, the dominant faith is Roman Catholicism. Churches dot the landscape, often perched on hilltops or nestled in stone villages. The Catholic Church plays a traditional role in community life, though San Marino does not have an official state religion. It is a secular republic. While Catholicism is part of the cultural fabric, attendance at services is not mandatory, and the influence of the church in politics is limited. Smaller religious communities exist, but they are few in number. The country's compact size and close-knit society mean that faith, like everything else, is quietly woven into everyday life rather than loudly displayed. The demonym for people from San Marino is Sammarinese. A Sammarinese citizen is someone who, by birth or through rare naturalization, belongs to this tiny mountain republic. It is not a term you will hear often, but when you do, it carries a sense of belonging to something enduring and unique. There are no major indigenous groups, no large-scale migrations, no dramatic shifts. Just a quiet, ongoing presence. People who live where their ancestors lived. High on the slopes of a mountain republic that has changed very little, even as the world around it continues to shift. Government, economy, and global standing. San Marino uses the euro as its official currency, even though it is not a member of the European Union. This is possible through a special agreement with the EU. €1 in San Marino has the same value as €1 anywhere else in the Eurozone, and is worth about the same as $1, though the rate may shift slightly over time. The capital city is also called San Marino. It lies on the slopes of Mount Titano, perched above the surrounding plains like a quiet sentinel. With only around 4,000 residents, the capital is more like a town than a city. Still, it holds the government buildings, the old fortress towers, and the narrow streets where tourists walk slowly and residents go about their daily routines. Other towns in the country include Serravalle, which is actually the most populous municipality, along with Borgo Maggiore and Damignano. Each has its own character, but all remain part of the same peaceful republic, nestled within Italy's rolling landscape. San Marino is a parliamentary republic. It has no king, no president for life, and no single ruler. Instead, it has two captains regent, elected every 6 months by the parliament. They serve together, equally as heads of state. It is an old and ceremonial system, rooted in medieval traditions and meant to prevent the concentration of power. The current captains regent change with the seasons. By the time you listen to this, their names may already have changed again. It is a system of rotation, of sharing, of balance. And it has worked quietly and steadily for centuries. San Marino is not a member of the European Union, but it has close ties. It is also not part of NATO. Still, it maintains diplomatic relations with many countries and is a member of several international organizations, such as the United Nations, the Council of Europe, and the International Monetary Fund. The average life expectancy in San Marino is high, around 84 years. That places it among the top countries in the world, close to Japan, Switzerland, and other high-ranking nations. A long life here is not unusual, and the health system is well regarded, especially for such a small population. The country's GDP per capita is also high, among the top 30 in the world. San Marino earns its income through banking, tourism, small-scale manufacturing, and services. Many people come to visit its old towns, buy stamps and coins, or enjoy the view from Mount Titano. On the Human Development Index, San Marino ranks very well. It is a high-income country with strong health care, education, and social support. Yet, because it is not part of some global data collections, it is sometimes excluded from certain rankings or shown separately. But by most standards, San Marino does quite well. There are few major problems. Some concerns exist about the aging population, limited natural resources, and the country's reliance on Italy for many forms of infrastructure. Still, life in San Marino is considered calm, safe, and comfortable. And finally, what do people tend to Google about San Marino? They often search for its size, its history, and whether it is part of Italy. Many are curious about its unique government or how to visit it on a day trip from nearby Rimini. Some are surprised to learn that it is a country at all. A country within a country. Quiet, small, and centuries old. The history of San Marino. The history of San Marino begins not with war or conquest, but with the quiet journey of a single man in search of peace. According to the country's founding legend, a Christian stonemason by the name of Marinus, later venerated as Saint Marinus, fled religious persecution in the early years of the 4th century, during the reign of the Roman Emperor Diocletian. He left the island of Rab, what is now part of modern-day Croatia, and made his way across the Adriatic Sea, eventually arriving on the Italian peninsula, where he climbed into the gentle folds of the Apennine Mountains and settled upon the slopes of Mount Titano. There, in the company of a few followers and in the shelter of nature rather than cities, he established a small monastic community devoted to simplicity, labor, and the Christian faith. It was in this humble setting, tucked away from imperial roads and power struggles, that the foundations were laid for what would later become the Republic of San Marino. Unlike most states whose origins are written in treaties, battles, or dynastic inheritance, San Marino claims a beginning rooted in withdrawal from the world rather than domination over it. A political birth not through proclamation or revolution, but through quiet endurance. Over the centuries that followed, while kingdoms, empires, and principalities rose and fell across the Italian peninsula, San Marino remained in place. It did not expand or seek conquest. Instead, it survived by remaining small, by tending to its own affairs, and by learning the art of diplomacy and discretion in the face of forces much larger than itself. Its people organized themselves into councils, developed a written code of laws, and began electing their leaders, long before such practices became common elsewhere in Europe. As the medieval world took shape, San Marino continued to maintain its independence, despite periodic threats from more powerful neighbors. At one point in the 15th century, Pope Innocent VIII attempted to bring the territory under papal control, but the effort proved short-lived. The citizens of San Marino, committed to their autonomy, resisted the annexation, and after only a few years, their independence was formally restored. In many ways, their ability to negotiate and survive in the shadows of empires became their most enduring strategy. Even Napoleon Bonaparte, whose armies reshaped Europe at the turn of the 19th century, recognized the unusual status of San Marino. When he passed through Italy, he met with representatives of the tiny republic, and in a gesture that was likely both respectful and strategic, he offered them additional territory. Remarkably, they declined the offer, not out of fear, but out of a desire to remain exactly as they were. They did not seek expansion. They sought continuity. During the unification of Italy in the 19th century, a period of sweeping transformation for the peninsula, San Marino once again managed to preserve its independence. The country provided refuge to Giuseppe Garibaldi, the revolutionary leader of the unification movement, and in return, Garibaldi ensured that the new Italian state recognized San Marino's right to remain sovereign. It was yet another example of how, through careful alliances and principled neutrality, San Marino navigated the tides of history without being swept away. The 20th century brought new challenges. During both world wars, San Marino declared its neutrality, despite being entirely surrounded by Italy and later Axis-aligned territories. While neutrality did not always guarantee safety, the Republic maintained its stance and even managed to shelter more than 100,000 civilians during the Second World War, a staggering number considering its own small population. In the post-war years, San Marino experienced a brief period of political turbulence. From 1945 to 1957, it was ruled by a left-wing coalition, including a communist party, an unusual occurrence in Western Europe at the time. But the transition to a more centrist government took place peacefully through democratic elections. Perhaps one of the most distinctive aspects of San Marino's political history is its unusual head-of-state structure, which dates back to the medieval era and continues to this day. Rather than a single president or monarch, the republic is led by two captains regent, who serve concurrently for 6-month terms. They are chosen by the country's parliament and serve not as rulers in the modern sense, but as custodians of a tradition that values equality, balance, and the peaceful rotation of power. Their role is largely ceremonial, but deeply symbolic, representing the continuity of a state that has endured not through strength or size, but through stability. Unlike most European nations, San Marino has never been colonized, never been absorbed into an empire, and never had to fight a war for its independence. It has, for over 1,700 years, remained quietly intact, a rare case of uninterrupted sovereignty in a world shaped by upheaval. It has achieved this not through isolation, but through measured openness. Its citizens have participated in trade, diplomacy, and culture, but always with a careful eye toward preserving their identity and autonomy. To this day, the people of San Marino commemorate the founding of their republic each year on September 3rd, believed to be the day St. Marinus established his settlement on Mount Titano. It is a national holiday marked by solemn ceremonies, civic pride, and the quiet knowledge that theirs is not just a country, but a legacy. In the grand sweep of history, San Marino may seem like a footnote, a tiny republic nestled in the folds of Italy. But in its survival, in its careful stewardship of tradition, and in its refusal to chase power, it offers a different kind of story. One not of conquest, but of persistence. Not of expansion, but of staying still. And in that stillness, it has found a kind of strength that few larger nations can claim. Life in San Marino today. To understand what it is like to live in San Marino today, one must begin by letting go of the pace and noise that define most of the modern world. Here, life moves slowly, not because it must, but because it can. It is a country without large cities, without roaring highways, and without the endless vertical ambition of skyscrapers. Instead, it offers stone buildings that rest against the mountain, winding roads that meander without urgency, and landscapes where time seems to fold gently in on itself, rather than rushing forward. The climate in San Marino reflects its position in the heart of the Apennines. Summers are warm, often dry and filled with sunlight, though rarely oppressively hot, as the elevation and mountain breezes provide natural relief from the heat of the surrounding plains. Winters are cool, sometimes dipping below freezing, especially on the higher slopes, and there is an occasional dusting of snow, softening the stone streets and quiet rooftops. There are no hurricanes, no sandstorms, no tropical monsoons. Only the slow rhythm of Mediterranean seasons, steady and familiar. Most people in San Marino live in modest, well-kept homes, scattered across the country's 9 municipalities, known locally as castelli or castles, a reminder of their medieval roots. While the capital, also named San Marino, is the cultural and political center, the largest population is actually found in Serravalle, a more residential and commercially active area, though even here, nothing feels rushed or crowded. There are no massive housing blocks or sprawling suburbs. Instead, there are clusters of homes built into the hillside, red-tiled roofs, and the occasional medieval tower that rises into view, not for function, but for memory. Economically, the country sustains itself through a quiet blend of tourism, banking, small-scale manufacturing, and trade in collectible items such as stamps and coins, which remain surprisingly popular among collectors worldwide. Tourists come by the thousands each year, often just for a day, crossing the border from Italy to stroll through the old town, enjoy the panoramic views from Mount Titano, or purchase a memento stamped with the name of a country smaller than most cities. But despite the importance of tourism, the country does not bend to it. Shops close for lunch. The streets remain clean and orderly. And while visitors are welcome, the rhythm of daily life belongs first and foremost to the people who live here. Culturally, San Marino is very close to Italy, sharing language, food, holidays, and much of its artistic heritage. But there is also a quiet insistence on being something distinct. Sammarinese people refer to their national identity with pride, not loudly, but with the kind of steady confidence that comes from centuries of knowing who you are, regardless of how large or small your country may be. They celebrate their national holidays with careful ceremony. They keep their own passports, their own postage stamps, their own system of governance, even if, in many other ways, they flow easily across the border into the surrounding Italian regions. In terms of industry, there are no coal mines, no oil rigs, no sprawling factories. Instead, small businesses form the backbone of the economy: family-owned shops, local food production, ceramics, textiles, and artisan workshops. Banking and financial services have long been part of the economic mix. though increased international regulation has shifted that sector toward greater transparency in recent years. Educationally, San Marino provides schooling for all children and maintains its own university. Healthcare is public and widely accessible, contributing to the country's high life expectancy and overall quality of life. There are no sprawling hospital complexes or endless corridors of bureaucracy, just local facilities designed to meet the needs of a small, aging, but well-cared-for population. Socially, there is little unrest. No visible poverty. No sprawling inequality. Most people live comfortably without extravagance and seem to value balance over ambition. Crime rates are low. Politics are peaceful. The country ranks high in human development, but without drawing much attention to itself. There are few headlines about San Marino, and that, for most of its citizens, is just fine. In many ways, San Marino today feels less like a modern state and more like a village that decided, long ago, to become a country, and simply kept going. It has no illusions of grandeur, no desire to grow beyond its borders, and no need to compete with the world's great powers. Its ambition is to remain what it has always been, a place of independence, dignity, and quiet continuity. And so, if you were to visit San Marino, not for a few hours, but for several weeks, you might begin to notice a certain stillness in the air. A sense that things are not measured in quarterly profits or breaking news, but in morning light, shared meals, and the slow toll of church bells across the hills. A kind of gentle permanence that is rare in the modern world. For those who wish to visit San Marino, the journey begins not with a long-haul flight across oceans or a trek through remote wilderness, but rather with a gentle detour off the well-traveled roads of northern Italy. There are no international airports within San Marino's borders, no long queues at border control, and no elaborate customs inspections. Instead, one simply enters, often without even realizing it, through a quiet road winding upward into the hills, until the signs begin to say Repubblica di San Marino, and the air carries the sense of somewhere a little different. The nearest major city is Rimini, located on the Adriatic coast, just across the border in Italy. From there, it takes less than an hour by car or bus to reach San Marino's historic center. The road climbs steadily, passing olive groves, vineyards, and small hamlets, until it arrives at the foot of Mount Titano, where the old town clings to the slopes in a cascade of ancient stone. No visa is required for citizens of the European Union, the United States, Canada, or most other Western countries. In fact, there is no passport control at all. San Marino shares an open border with Italy, and movement is entirely free. One can come and go with ease, without stamps or inspections, though visitors can purchase a souvenir passport stamp at the local tourist office if they wish to commemorate their visit in a symbolic way. In terms of safety, San Marino is among the most peaceful countries in the world. There are no areas to avoid, no travel advisories, and no notable risks beyond the usual care one takes when walking cobbled streets or crossing narrow roads. Violent crime is virtually unheard of, and even petty theft is rare. It is, in almost every sense, a safe and quiet place. The cost of visiting San Marino is moderate. Prices are generally similar to those in Italy, perhaps slightly lower in some areas, especially outside the main tourist zones. There are no luxury resorts or extravagant shopping districts, but rather family-run hotels, quiet cafes, and souvenir shops selling locally made goods. Meals are simple, hearty, and affordable. And the views from the castle walls, from quiet balconies, from the edges of walking paths, are always free. The best time to visit San Marino is during the late spring or early autumn, when the weather is mild, the skies are clear, and the crowds are manageable. In summer, especially July and August, the narrow streets of the old town can become busy with day trippers from nearby Italian beach towns. But even then, the atmosphere remains more charming than chaotic, and the early mornings and late evenings offer space for quiet wandering. In winter, the mountain air turns crisp, and the upper reaches of the country may receive a soft coating of snow. Tourism slows down, the cafes grow quieter, and the streets are filled mostly with locals going about their daily lives. It is a peaceful time to visit, especially for those who enjoy solitude and silence, with the occasional echo of footsteps on stone. Among the most popular places to visit in San Marino is the trio of fortress towers that sit along the ridge of Mount Titano. Guaita, the oldest of the three, dates back to the 11th century and offers panoramic views stretching across the surrounding countryside to the distant Adriatic Sea. Cesta, located on the highest peak, houses a small museum of historical weaponry, while Montale, the smallest and most secluded, remains closed to the public but adds a graceful silhouette to the skyline. Beyond the towers, visitors can explore the Basilica of San Marino, the main square with its elegant government buildings, and the narrow alleyways lined with shops selling local ceramics, wines, and hand-carved wooden goods. There are also walking paths that wind gently around the cliffs, offering views not just of rooftops and towers, but of valleys and fields that stretch far into Italy. For those seeking something more adventurous, San Marino offers cycling routes, hiking trails, and even a cable car that runs from the lower town of Borgo Maggiore up to the historic center. The ride is short, but the view is sweeping, and the quiet hum of the cable line adds to the feeling of slow, gentle movement through space. As for food, San Marino's cuisine is closely tied to the culinary traditions of the surrounding Emilia-Romagna region, with an emphasis on simple, local ingredients and time-tested recipes. Dishes often include handmade pasta, cured meats, mountain cheeses, and rustic bread. One traditional dish is torta tre monti, or Three Towers cake, a layered dessert made of thin wafers and chocolate hazelnut cream, rich, sweet, and symbolic of the country's identity. Wines are local and unpretentious. Meals are served slowly, with conversation, and no one seems in a hurry to leave the table. In short, visiting San Marino is less about ticking off sights and more about sinking gently into a way of life that has resisted the rush of the world. It is about walking slowly, eating slowly, observing slowly, and perhaps, if you're lucky, remembering what it feels like to be somewhere that never needed to be loud to be proud. Fun facts about San Marino. For such a small country, San Marino holds a surprising number of curiosities, quiet, unexpected details that seem to linger at the edges of the larger world's attention. These are not the sort of facts that demand excitement or astonishment, but rather gentle surprises, the kind that cause a soft smile or a moment of thoughtful stillness. One of the most charming features of San Marino's political system is the fact that it changes its heads of state twice a year. Every 6 months, the Grand and General Council, the country's parliament, elects 2 captains regent, who serve together as joint heads of state. They are chosen from among the country's citizens, often from opposing political parties, and their term begins and ends with solemn ceremony. It is an arrangement that dates back to the year 1243 and is designed to ensure balance, cooperation, and the peaceful sharing of power. No one person holds sway for long, and in that impermanence, San Marino finds a kind of stability that many larger nations have long struggled to achieve. Another gentle curiosity lies in San Marino's military. Yes, the country has a military force, but it is small, symbolic, and largely ceremonial. There are no tanks, no submarines, no standing army in the modern sense. Instead, there is a handful of uniformed guards who stand watch at official events, a historic rifle corps that performs during parades, and a small volunteer militia for traditional purposes. Their role is not to fight wars, but to remind the world, and perhaps themselves, of a tradition that goes back centuries. In a country that values continuity, such pageantry is less about power and more about presence. San Marino is also one of the few countries in the world to have more registered vehicles than people. This is not because traffic is chaotic or the roads are crowded. Quite the opposite. It reflects a tax system that, for many years, made car registration inexpensive, encouraging Italians to register their vehicles in San Marino rather than in their home country. The result is a statistical oddity: more cars than citizens, yet never a traffic jam. The country has its own official Olympic team, despite its tiny population. San Marino first participated in the Olympic Games in 1960, and for many years, its athletes competed with pride, even if they never quite reached the podium. That changed in 2021, when Alessandra Perilli won a bronze medal in women's trap shooting at the Tokyo Summer Olympics, San Marino's first ever Olympic medal. With that single moment, the country became the smallest nation in history to win an Olympic medal. And then, just days later, it won 2 more. For a country of only 34,000 people, it was a triumph of quiet persistence. Even in the world's most popular sport, football, San Marino has managed to leave its small but unforgettable mark on history. Although the national team is known for ranking among the lowest in the world and rarely winning matches, there are moments that have etched themselves into the memories of players and fans alike. The most famous of these occurred on November 17, 1993, during a World Cup qualifying match. The opponent was none other than England, a footballing giant, and the expectation, as usual, was that San Marino would lose without much resistance. But just 8 seconds into the game, before most spectators had even settled into their seats, Davide Gualtieri intercepted a poor back pass and calmly placed the ball past a stunned David Seaman. It became the fastest goal in World Cup qualifying history, and for a brief, shining moment, San Marino led England. The final score? England won 7-1. But the goal, that fleeting instant of unexpected glory, lives on in football's collective memory, a reminder that in sport, as in life, even the smallest can on occasion strike straight at the heart of the mighty. When it comes to currency, San Marino uses the euro, but still mints its own coins. These euro coins, decorated with San Marino's towers and crests, are legal tender throughout the Eurozone, though many collectors seek them out and keep them as souvenirs. Likewise, the country issues its own postage stamps, often with beautiful designs, which are sold around the world and contribute to the country's revenue. There are people in distant places who may never visit San Marino, but who know it through its stamps, its coins, and the small elegance of its printed symbols. The 3 towers, Guaita, Sesta, and Montale, are not only historic watchtowers, but also deeply embedded in San Marino's identity. They appear on the national flag, on coins, on stamps, and in official emblems. They stand along the ridge of Mount Titano, overlooking the plains of Emilia-Romagna, and they have done so for nearly 1,000 years. Each tower has its own character. Guaita is the oldest and most accessible, Sesta the highest and home to a small museum, and Montale the most remote, closed to the public, resting silently among the trees. Culturally, San Marino hosts a number of quiet festivals. There is the Feast of St. Marinus, celebrated every September 3rd, with solemn processions, music, and speeches. And in the summer months, the streets of the capital are often filled with historical reenactments, flag-throwing displays, and medieval pageantry. Not as grand spectacles, but as rituals of memory and identity. These events do not draw vast international crowds, but they do draw the community together in a shared sense of pride that feels both local and enduring. San Marino has no prisons. Or more precisely, it has a holding facility for very short stays, but no full-scale penitentiary. Long-term sentences are served in Italian prisons under an agreement between the 2 countries. This is less a reflection of leniency and more a practical outcome of the country's size and the low level of serious crime. Though the country is rarely associated with celebrity, there are a few names known beyond its borders. The singer Anita Simoncini, for instance, represented San Marino in the Eurovision Song Contest. And athletes like Miles Amine, a wrestler of Sammarinese descent, have helped raise the country's profile on international stages. There are no natural wonders of grand scale, no deep canyons or vast lakes, but there are views. From the towers, from the cliffs, from the walking paths that wrap around the mountain, one can see across vast stretches of Italy, out toward the Adriatic Sea, or inward, toward the folds of the land, where fields and villages disappear into gentle haze. In these views, in these quiet traditions, and in the soft rhythms of daily life, one finds what might be San Marino's greatest oddity of all, that a place so small, so often overlooked, has remained so remarkably itself for so long. And so, as we bring this quiet journey to an end, we leave behind the stone towers, the gentle slopes of Mount Titano, and the soft echo of footsteps through medieval streets that have changed little in hundreds of years. San Marino may be small, but in its age, its steadiness, and its quiet confidence, it reminds us that greatness does not always come from size, and that endurance, more than ambition, can be the truest mark of a nation. Though the countries in this series are chosen in entirely random order, we seem to have drifted into a current of small states lately, each with their own gentle gravity. First we visited Kosovo, then we wandered across the sea to Cyprus, and now we've paused among the hills of San Marino. And next, as chance would have it, we'll find ourselves high in the Pyrenees, in yet another pocket of sovereignty nestled among giants. Yes, in our next episode, we'll explore the quiet Republic of Andorra. But for now, thank you for joining us. If this peaceful journey helped you relax, drift off, or simply learn something new in a slower way, we invite you to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. And if you happen to be from San Marino or have ever walked its stone paths, we'd love to hear your reflections too. Until next time, sleep well, travel gently, and remember, the world is wide, but even the smallest places hold entire histories, entire cultures, and entire lives, quietly unfolding just beyond the border.